The sound of porcelain breaking against my cheek was louder than the laughter that followed. For a split second, I thought my skull had cracked. My vision blurred. Warm blood rolled down my face, and all I could hear was Harper's giggle slicing through the air like glass. Look at her. Mason slapped the table, wheezing between his laughs. Can't even take a joke without bleeding all over Mom's good floor. Mom didn't even flinch. She stood there holding the broken edge of the plate like it was a weapon. Maybe, she said slowly, venom dripping from every word. You'll finally learn to keep that useless mouth shut. Dad leaned back in his chair, swirling his whiskey lazily. You've always been dead weight, he muttered, shaking his head. We carried you long enough. Be grateful we even let you sit at this table. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments, from where are you watching this video? I pressed a napkin against my face, trying to stop the blood, but Harper yanked it away with a smirk. Don't ruin the linen, Jamie, she said sweetly. Mom actually likes those. Worthless. Absolutely worthless. You should have been left at the hospital. Their voices were sharp, but what cut deeper was the silence around me. The way everyone else in the room just sat there, pretending nothing was wrong. Something inside me cracked that night. It was the last thread of hope. I stopped crying that moment. I stopped needing them. I decided then I wouldn't just leave. I wouldn't just survive. I'd burn down the pedestal they built themselves on. I spent the next 2 months playing the part perfectly. To them, I became invisible. Someone broken and beaten, which was exactly what I wanted them to believe. But in the background, I was building something. I started small, collecting little pieces. Harper's perfect influencer photos that didn't match her real lifestyle. Bank statements that didn't add up. Snippets of drunken voice notes trash-talking sponsors. Mason made it easier than I expected. He bragged constantly about skimming cash from Dad's construction deals, leaving trails everywhere. Fake invoices, secret accounts, coded texts, and I saved them all. Then there was Dad, for years. He'd hidden undeclared income and under-the-table deals, and I found it buried in old emails he thought no one would ever check. Mom was different. Her power was in manipulation. I collected texts where she bullied distant relatives, knowing exactly how toxic they look in daylight. But gathering dirt wasn't enough. I wanted them to destroy themselves. That's when I remembered Ethan Reyes. Dad had ruined Ethan's life 3 years ago, firing him in front of the entire company, accusing him of theft. I tracked him down. When I told him who I was and what I wanted, something dangerous lit up in his eyes. I've been waiting for this, he said. He handed me a flash drive of evidence Ethan had kept all these years. Emails proving Dad set him up. Fake audits. It was dynamite. 2 weeks later, Harper announced the City Renewal Gala, an exclusive event hosted by Dad's company. It was their big night. I smiled when I saw the date. I wasn't just going to ruin their image. I was going to make them confess live in front of everyone who worshipped them. The City Renewal Gala glittered like something out of a movie. I stood near the entrance, hidden in plain sight, wearing the black gown Harper once mocked. Tonight, I didn't look like the quiet, broken shadow. Tonight, I looked untouchable. I watched them on stage, Mom glowing, Dad soaking up attention, Harper pining for the cameras. Perfect. The event hit its peak when Dad walked to the microphone, giving his signature family speech about resilience, hard work, and values. That's when I triggered the first step. The giant LED screens behind him flickered. Harper's carefully curated Instagram photos appeared, alongside screenshots of the emails where she mocked every brand she partnered with. Cheap trash. Only idiots buy their products. Gasps echoed across the hall. Harper froze mid-pose, her eyes wide as her carefully crafted empire began to crumble in real time. And then Mason's invoices appeared. Fake numbers, fraudulent payments, and a photo of him bragging about skimming cash off Dad's deals. I saw Dad's face twitch. Mason spun toward him. You knew about this? Mason hissed loud enough for the front row to hear. Don't you dare look at me like I knew nothing. Dad snapped. Oh, please. Harper barked, finally breaking character. You taught us how to cheat, Dad. Don't act so innocent. The microphones were still live. Everyone heard. The sponsors started whispering. I knew what they were seeing. Ethan and I had timed it perfectly. The drive I'd sent earlier, containing every last email proving Dad's tax fraud and every shady deal, was already trending on Twitter under hashtag Golden Family Exposed. I watched Dad's phone vibrate nonstop, his expression morphing from confusion to panic to rage. This is you, he snarled at Harper. You ruined us. Oh, screw you, Dad. Harper spat back. This is your mess, not mine. Sponsors started walking out. Camera crews captured every second. Guests whispered, fraud, liars, thought they were untouchable. Mom's perfect composure finally cracked. Stop fighting, she hissed, grabbing Dad's arm. We can fix this if we stay united. But Mason shoved Harper. Harper shoved him back. And suddenly, the four of them were tearing into each other under blinding stage lights, screaming, accusing, dragging every hidden betrayal into the open while hundreds of people watched exactly as planned. And then came the final blow. The doors at the back of the hall swung open, and Ethan Reyes walked in. Gasps rippled through the crowd. People remembered what my father had done to him. Ethan didn't say a word. His presence was enough to make Dad stumble over his own words. Sweating under the spotlight, the humiliation was complete. The once untouchable family was crumbling live, every camera broadcasting it to thousands watching from home. By the time the live stream cut, their legacy was dust, but I wasn't finished. I stood in the hallway outside the gala hall, the muffled shouting of my family bleeding through the double doors behind me. Ethan stepped beside me. You ready? He asked quietly. I nodded once. It's time. By the next morning, the world had already devoured the chaos. Harper's brand sponsors had terminated every deal. Mason's fraudulent invoices went viral. Dad's name trended under #GoldenFraud. But my revenge wasn't just exposing them. I wanted them stripped of power. Ethan and I had spent months preparing for this. Through his network, he'd acquired controlling interest in the family's biggest source of pride, Reynolds Development Group. By noon, the takeover was finalized. By evening, their access cards no longer worked. I watched from the cafe across the street as Dad stormed up to the glass doors, yanking at the handle. Security stopped him cold. This is my company, he shouted. Not anymore, mister. Reynolds, the guard replied calmly. Ownership transferred this morning. The look on his face, God, I'll never forget it. Harper tried to salvage her influencer career by posting a video blaming me for everything. But Ethan had already fed every major gossip outlet and released clips of Harper mocking her own fans. Within hours, the comments turned rabid. Brands blacklisted her. Mason spiraled faster, his name high. Every financial watchdog report for fraud. Loans called in. His so-called friends stopped answering his calls. And Mom, the woman who smashed a plate into my face, begged me to meet her at the house. I went. The once spotless cold palace looked like a war zone. Mom sitting on the couch with hollow eyes. You did this? She whispered. I crouched in front of her. No, Mom, I said softly. You did this. I just gave the world the receipts. The final nail came a week later at the quarterly city council meeting. Dad walked out of that chamber, pale, shaking, and utterly broken. I stood on the steps outside as he passed me, his eyes glassy with defeat. You ruined us, he rasped. I smiled small, quiet, but sharp. No, Dad. I just gave you exactly what you gave me. They lost everything. The company, the money, the influence, the carefully constructed golden image, and Ethan. He now sat where my father once ruled, running Reynolds Development Group with a steady hand and quiet dignity. The man my parents humiliated now owned the empire they built on cruelty. I didn't need their apology. I didn't need their love. I had something better. The power they thought I'd never have. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this.